All right.
Robert, what time do you think we're going to finish today?
What?
What time do you think we're going to finish?
What time? What?
Do you think we're going to finish the daf today? I didn't get to mincha yet.
Probably about 7.
Oh boy. Okay, I didn't get to mincha yet. I think I'm going to drive
7
to you.
is too late. Mincha's before that.
So I'm joking.
I know.
I don't know. Figure about 35, 40.
Later
Okay.
than that. Yeah, 40.
I think I may drive to you in my car and then make it to mincha.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see you.
Great. We're very happy to hear that.
Are we waiting for you?
What kind of chicken did your wife make tonight?
Can you pick up iron? Can you pick up iron?
I'm too far out of the way.
Yeah. Okay, I guess Musa for a little bit, for a minute. Which Av are we up to?
I don't have my phone. I don't have my phone.
I think we're up to Avos are covered.
You know what they didn't give you that they're going to do?
Yeah. The Avos are covered. He rama oid. The Av of covered is very bad. Somebody should stay away from covered to the best of his ability. Right? And if a person stays away from 2 things, covered and hana from others, also karov l'chol ma'alos hatoivos, then he's karov to all ma'alos hatoivos. Thank you. Covered makalkal kol ha'maisim, because covered, when you get covered, it ruins all the maisim. Because then all the maisim that you do, you're thinking, oh, you want to get covered. But covered, and even if you're not choshek for covered, if you go run to be nana from others, I'll call maisim, we'll call them all your maisim are makolkal. Because you're always going to be looking for gain. You should put in your heart to run from covered, and also to stay away from acherim. So I guess it's apropos that Reb Chaim, the day Reb Chaim's nifter, if there was anybody that was a rider from covered and they came after him anyways, you think about it, where are they making the levaya? He doesn't have a shul, he doesn't have a yeshiva, right? He davened in the shul next door to his house. I don't even know if he sat on the Mizrach. I'm not even sure he sat on the Mizrach. He just sat and learned the whole day, and he did what he needed to do, and the whole world ran after him. That's the covet. That's the Baruch Tzadikim is talking about. Just do your thing, and then don't be running after the covet. Yeah. Anyways, we should only hear Basuras Tovas from that. Okay, so let's go. Now we got our work cut out because we're Amud behind. Okay, it's not nearly as hard as doing the last stop on Purim night. This is not nearly as hard as that for many reasons. But
I think we should do that stop again.
You think so? You want to stay from Avrami?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So where do we leave off?
Bottom of Yod Amud Aleph.
Trying to remember where. Alpha Pecan, right? Yeah. Alpha Pecan. So again, we're talking about here that Levi had said that there should be a 16th case in the Mishnah, right? Which was that Anusas Aviv, right? That we said there's a Machlokes whether Anusas, whether we know that you're not allowed to marry your father's wife. But what about if your father was ma'anis somebody, or just was mafatas somebody, something, a relationship out of marriage? So was that assur or not? So that was a machlokes. So Reb Levi said that could also be a scenario where the anusas aviv falls to you for yibum, right? And then you have the guy has to be miyavim the wife. It's not really the wife, the person who had a relationship with the father. So the Gemara says, even though Rebbe screamed at Levi and said he doesn't have a brain in his head, right? 5 lines up. Still, Levi looked after our Mishnah, right? The Tani, meaning he looked to add a case to our Mishnah. The Tani Levi, Sometimes the mother is going to make the tzara potter. Sometimes the mother is not potter. Meaning again, but just to refresh, yeah. It's a new Kabbalah Satira since Purim, so we have to refresh a little bit, right? So again, if you have a tzara, means there's two wives. One wife is an assur arayis, and the second wife is perfectly mutter, right? But the Mishnah says that those 15 scenarios of arayis, even the tzara doesn't get yibum, even though there's nothing wrong with that relationship, because she piggybacks over the one that's an arayis, right? So he's saying, so sometimes a mother will pater the tzara, and sometimes a mother won't pater the tzara. Ketzad? If the mother was married to the father, and then she went and married her son's brother from the father, right? Meaning they weren't allowed to do this, right? And not only you're not allowed to do this, but the kedushin doesn't even work. Meaning again, let's just one more hakdama, which is that there's two types of relationships. There's a relationship where shalom. There's a relationship. There's a shalom. There's a sorry. There is a relationship where if that's assur, but if it's only a lav, then the kedushin is going to work, even though it was assur. But the ma'aser of kedushin is going to work. Then you have the major ones that are chorus, that if they get married, it's as if they didn't get married. Meaning a brother marries a sister. You're not going to say, oh, he's married to his sister. No, the kedushin just doesn't work, right? So here, if the son from the father marries his father's wife, so that kedushin doesn't work, right? So how do you have that? So if the kedushin doesn't work, zui imo she'ein pateres tzarasa. So that mother is not going to pater the tzara because they're not even married, right? Meaning a son marries his father's wife, right? Not his mother. His son marries his father's wife, and then the father dies, right? So then, what do you say?
His brother's mother.
What did I say?
You're right.
His brother from his father's mother, right? Then that brother. I'm sorry, right? I left out that step. Thank you, Avi. Right. So then the brother dies. So now he's got to be miyavim his father's wife and his the co-wife. So in that situation, since the marriage didn't even work, so the tzara has to get yibum because there was no marriage there. There was no illegal marriage there, right? So that would be the case where it doesn't pater. On Amud Beis now. But if it's anusas aviv, and then the son marries his father's the lady that his father was ma'anis, and then she went and married his brother, umeis, and then she died. Then she's gonna be pater because lamaisa, even though it was assur for this son to marry his father's who his father was ma'anis, but the bottom line is the kedushin does work, and therefore the co-wife is going to be pater from you. Even though the Chacham said on Mishnah 15 cases, so we could say we can add on 16, like this would be that case, right? So Amalei Yochanan, so lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, right? Maybe there's another case. The Levi Damar Di'inami Katani, according to Levi, who said Di'i, which we said on Amud Aleph, means that if they did something wrong, and there's a marriage that comes from that, from a wrongful marriage, we're still going to count it. So listening hachoylets liyavimtai v'chazer v'kidsha. Why don't we say a case where, and this again needs a little background, somebody does chalitza, right? So your standard case of yibum is the brother has to marry his brother's wife. But let's say he didn't, and he did chalitza, and then he regretted it. He said, "Hey, no, maybe I should marry her." So then he marries her. That's not allowed, right? That's assur. And then, but he did it, and then meis b'lo banim. Then he died without kids, right? So demigu di'i asura tzarasa nami asira. Since she's assur, right? And it's chorus because it's a sister-in-law. Yeah. So her tzara is also assur. So why don't we add that case? Because there's no way to get it to the next generation, right? We had that at the end of the Mishnah. If you can't move it down one brother, because there's no way to do it because it's assur. Right? So since there's no way to do it, it's not in sotah, so it's not included in our Mishnah. So then it's v'lei malei chayve laven he, v'chayve laven b'nei chalitza v'yibum. You know, why didn't he answer him back that the reason why it would not work is because it's only a lav. Meaning, and if it's only a lav, then a lav can do chalitza and yibum, which we said, right? We said before in Amud Aleph. A lav, the marriage is going to work. So if the marriage works, then there's not going to be, and then there's going to be chalitza and yibum. So, and we're going to see this Machlokes in a minute. So the Dvar of Kamalei, he's saying it according to his words. According to me, the chayve lavim, b'chayve lavim b'nei chalitza v'yibum, no, they're b'nei chalitza and yibum. Right, so that's why it can't be part of our Mishnah, because our Mishnah is they're not b'nei chalitza v'yibum. But according to you, they're chayve krisis. So according to you, that they're chayve krisis, that you have to come on to the reason of tzara. Yeah, so that's what we're saying. Now, what is this machlokes? Okay, that's a little bit the hard part. Now this part gets a little easier. This is now the Gemara is going to go through this case. So itmar hachayletz liyavimta. Somebody again, instead of doing yibum to his brother's wife, he does chalitza. The chaz of a kitchen, then he goes back and he marries her. So this is going to be machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Amar Reish Lakish, who ain't chayav ala chalutza kares? He's not chayav kares on the chalutza, right? Because he was really supposed to marry her. He didn't, but really she was earmarked for him because it was her brother. It was his brother's wife. But the brothers who never had a right to marry the sister-in-law, because they weren't first in line. So if they do it, then they're regular assur, just like any guy who, when the brother's alive, sleeps with his brother's wife. It's a chiyuv, right? So the same thing here, it's a chiyuv. For the other brothers, it doesn't change. So again, Reish Lakish is saying that there's no kares on the miyavim, meaning the one that was supposed to be miyavim, but he did chalitz. It's a regular lav. But the brothers, they maintain their regular chiyuv kares. Ala Tzara,
She had chalitza, yeah.
She had chalitza.
Legitimate chalitza.
She had a legitimate chalitza, correct.
So why can't any of the brothers marry her? She's a free lady now.
Yeah, but she's still even a brother's wife is assur even after the brother dies. The only one that becomes mutter after death is the wife's sister. Brother's wife is assur even after the brother dies. Right?
Okay.
No, so it's a good point. The machlokes here is, what about those brothers? Again, you have 3 brothers and one brother dies without kids. So you have 2 brothers left. One brother's supposed to do yibum, right? But instead he did chalitza. So for him, Reish Lakish is saying if he decides to remarry her, it's an assur lav, because it's just taking a lady that really belonged to him, but it's a lav. The 3rd brother, she was always a chiyuv kares to him. So she was a chiyuv kares before, she's a chiyuv kares now. Doesn't change, right? And the Tzara is, whether it's him or the brothers, they're all chiyuv kares because nothing ever changed with her.
One second. The brother rushed in to do chalitza before anybody had a chance to do yibum. Is that what we're saying? One brother ran in.
Chayiv and yibum did chalitza instead of yibum. Nobody rushed in any place.
Yeah. Well,
What'd you say?
Somebody walked very quickly and did chalitza before any of the other brothers could do yibum. Correct. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
No, but then
he was the brother that was chayiv and yibum. He's the oldest remaining brother. What are you making the case complicated for? And he did chalitza instead of yibum.
Take a deep breath.
So
once chalitza was done,
fine. I took a deep breath.
Okay,
I didn't write these ridiculous emails that people wrote. Okay, I took a deep breath. Okay,
you're right. So once chalitza is done, then everybody's out. Then the other brother cannot.
Everybody, no. Once one does chalitza, they're all out. Once one brother does chalitza,
that's all I want to know. Okay.
Yeah,
Doctor,
but the halacha changes.
Doctor, people who are not in the medical field, they also get upset when the gadol dies. You don't have to be a doctor to be upset when the gadol dies. I just what you didn't realize that. I know it's hard for people who so have doctors by PhDs by the name. Other people get upset when the gadol dies also.
Okay, let's take it outside.
I don't know if you realize.
Yeah.
People who aren't millionaires who didn't go to Reb Chaim to see if they should buy 70 apartment houses. Other people got upset also.
Yeah. Anyways, so so now the Machlokes, reish, lakish, and Rabbi Yochanan is what's the status of the other brother. But from the Tzara nobody was ever potter from. So therefore, it's a chiyuv if anybody marries her. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. Bein ha'achin einon chayavin lo ala chalutza kares v'lo ala tzara kares. They're not chayav, not on the chalutza kares and not on the tzara kares. Nobody's chayav kares since there was a mitzvah for them to be meyavim these ladies, right? Since there was a mitzvah for them to be meyavim these ladies, there's no longer a chiyuv kares on any of the brothers. So even if one brother goes and does chalitza, there's still no chiyuv kares. Right now the Gemara goes to the reasons. My time at the reish lakish. So makra asher lo yivne, that he doesn't build. Kivan shaloi bana shuv lo yivne. Right, since he never built her house, right? That's the point of the yibum. He's supposed to build the house. So since he didn't build the house, he can't build it anymore. He lost his chance. So he has the lav of lo yivne. That's just the lav. But his other brothers never were in the parsha of building the house, so therefore their regular chiyuv kares that one gets for marrying his sister-in-law, his brother's sister, always remains the same. And it's only on that one that is la yivne, hot tzara kedekami kaimi, but the tzara stays the same, right? And therefore she was always kares. That's one other thing I should have pointed out. When a man has two wives, you don't do yibum on both wives. You just do yibum on one wife. You need one brother for one wife. Once that happens, the other wife, there's no, meaning you can't decide to have multiple brothers. Let's say they really want to be frum and they say, hey, there's two wives, let's have two brothers do yibum to two wives. There's more of a chance of having a baby, right? You can't have that because it's one brother to one wife. So that Tzara, the co-wife, so she was always potter. So I mean, it was not potter. You were never allowed to be with her. So if any of those brothers marry her or do yibum to her, that's a chiyuv kares. That's what reish lakish says. Everything remains the same. But Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan has a good taina. He says, 1 second. Now the brother died. You have three brothers, let's say, using an example. You have three brothers available to be meyavim. Each one of those has a mitzvah to build their brother's house. Right? So right now, if any of those brothers marry this woman, there's no assur. And if they do chalitza to this woman, fine. So then that the one who did chalitza, if he goes back and marries her again, or just marries her in the first place, he's over on a lav. So he's saying, how could it be that all these brothers are potentially over on a lav? Or they can do chalitza to each one of the wives. They're all eligible for chalitza, and then it switches back to kares. Meaning, he's saying, Rabbi Yochanan, how can you say, oh, if you sleep with her now, you're over on a lav, but if you sleep with her in a different situation, you chiyuv kares. It's either all or nothing, right? Elihu shlichusa da'achim kaven. No, what it is he's doing the shlichus of his brothers, and since he shlichusa the tzara kavda, and she is doing the shlichus of the other wives, right? So therefore, it's just a shlichus, but since they were all in the lav, so they're in the lav, and that's it, right? And then they remain in the lav, and there's going to be no kares. Fine. So now this is going to take us for another Amud, this case. So Rabbi Yochanan asked reish lakish, somebody does chalitza to his yivama, and then goes back and as makadasher umeis, and then she dies. Then he dies. Tzricha chalitza menachem. She needs chalitza from the brothers. So bishlam lavin. So it's good according to me. That's a chayve lavin. Haro de tzricha chalitza menachem. She needs chalitza from the brothers because it was only a assur lav. So that marriage, was illegal. It works. Again, the case was he did chalitza and then he remarried her. So if you're over on a lav, so then the marriage works. But it's a marriage works, but it's a Rabanan. So since it's the Rabanan, they can't do yibum, but they have to do chalitza. Right? They can, meaning you can only do chalitza, you can't do yibum. Because anytime there's an assur Rabanan marriage going on here, and then there's a yibum that comes out of it, then it needs chalitza, but no yibum. So here, since it was a lav, so that's why the other brothers do need to do chalitza, not yibum. But according to you, according to you, it's a chiyuv kares, right? So why does that Tzara, why does that co-wife need chalitza? Right? She could even do yibum, but because the marriage was never a marriage, just the Tzara. Obviously, the wife can't because they're all assur to the wife since there was a chalitza done already before, right? So fine. So that's the kasha. So then he says but according to you, aim a safek. Let's say the safek. But let's say one of those brothers did do a bedika. I'm thinking I have, right? If you have all these shilas coming up now in my head that I have to answer right after the shir before licht pension, and it jumps into my head, so I apologize about that. Okay, and you know what, those that didn't cop what I just said are just not paying enough attention. So okay, anyway, I apologize. One of the brothers gets up and is Makadisher. So now we got two brothers that did something wrong. The first brother remarried his chalutza, and then he died. And then the other brother, who wasn't supposed to do anything, got up and married. Ain lo Allah klum. She's got nothing on him, right? She can marry whoever she wants, right? Because the marriage wasn't even a marriage. So that sounds like it's chorus. Because the marriage wasn't a marriage. And if the chayve lavin, am I aim law? I love klum. So why does she have nothing? Right?
It doesn't make a marriage, like something, it doesn't make a connection.
Not if it was an illegal, not if it was a chiyuv chorus. Not if it was a chiyuv chorus. Right?
If there's a kid, what is it?
Oh, so that's a big shiloh, what the kid is. That's a big shiloh.
If they're not married, so the kid's not a mamzer.
No, if it's a chiyuv chorus, the pashtus is a kid is a mamzer.
So then they are married. They're
not married. If they be married, the kid wouldn't be a mamzer.
And there's some kind of zakuk, there's some kind of connection, you know?
Here, no. It depends. If you hold it's a chiyuv chorus, then it's a problem. Then the kid's a mamzer, right? That's if you hold it's chorus, but if you hold it's a lav, but if it's a lav, then why is ein love klum? There is a marriage. They need to do a chalitza, right, or at least a divorce, right? She needs to get divorced. So Amar Rav Sheshes Seifa son Rabbi Kiva. See, here's where it's not complicated, but this is sort of like a way out. We say, oh no, the Seifa is going to Rabbi Kiva. The Amar ein kedushin toisim b'chayve lavin. Rabbi Kiva holds that not only is a chiyuv kares, everybody else holds that a chiyuv kares kedushin doesn't work. But the marriage is not a marriage. But lav, if it's just a chiyuv lav, then the marriage is a marriage. And Rabbi Kiva holds no, even if it's just a lav, then the marriage is not a marriage. So that's what the Sefer must be talking about. We're on the bottom line now on Yudam Beis. But listening, Rabbi Kiva, Ein Love Klum. Why don't you say, okay, according to Rabbi Kiva, there's nothing there. Now we start today's daf. So when it says kasha, meaning you have a stira in this brisa itself. You have a stira in the reish. It sounds like to remarry a chalutza, the one that you did chalitza to. It's mashma that it's a chiyuv kares, and the seifa is mashma. I'm sorry, the reish is mashma that it's a lav, and the seifa is mashma that it's a chiyuv kares. Right, so it's a stira in itself. So we said no. The seifa is talking about Rabbi Kiva, who holds the marriage is not a marriage, right? But the Gemara says, so why don't you just say the seifa is going to Rabbi Kiva? So the Gemara says kasha to kasha. So anyway, so again, the whole shaila here is whether you're allowed to remarry the chalutza. So now we're gonna have two other tirutzim. again for the stira between the reish and the safek. Again, the reish sounds like for a brother to remarry his sister-in-law that had chalitza is a chiyuv chorus, and for the safek sounds like it's a lav, right? So it's a stira between the reish and the safek. So the first one is we said that the safek is Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara leaves off with a kasha. So now Rav Ashi and Rav Ashi is going to have a teretz, and who else?
Ravina.
And Ravina, yes, thank you. So Rav Ashi in the top line now, you know what else? Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. So Rav Ashi said look at reish lakish, umataretz look at Reb Shimon. Rav Ashi holds like reish lakish, and he's going to say that the pshat in the Mishnah is like Reb Shimon. So this is combining two of the main shittas that we've had over the last two blocks. And Ravina saw look at Reb Yochanan umataretz Rabanan. So what are we talking about? Rav Ashi saw look at reish lakish, umataretz look at Reb Shimon. Rav Ashi is going like reish lakish, and he's mataretz the brisa like Reb Shimon. So somebody does chalitza to his sister-in-law, right? Yivimtai to the one he's supposed to do yibum to. V'chazer a kitchen, and then he illegally goes back and remarries her. So then tzricha chalitza min ha'achin, and then obviously then the guy dies. She's going to need chalitza from the brothers. So man achin. Now which type of brothers? So if the island remembers from the Daf on Purim, and from the end of the Mishnah, there's two types of brothers. There's brothers that could be born after this fellow dies, or brothers that are born before. So that's a Machlokes, Reb Shimon and the Rabanan, whether those wives are potter because the brother was not in the world when this whole thing went down, when his brother died. So man achin hayi loidim. These are brothers that we're talking about that were born afterwards, right? So meaning this brother was not born until after he did chalitza and remarried his ex or the chalitza. So Kiman, and who is it like? It's like Reb Shimon, right? So Reb Shimon holds is because since the boy he was never around, so then there was no chiyuv yibum, and because there was he's not in the parsha. Right, so that's the first way of saying it. Now, one of the ones that was born and was Makadasher, again, not allowed to, but he did, Ain lo of klum. Then she has nothing because the Kedushin is not a Kedushin at all. Kiman, who's that like? Rish Lakish. Right? And because why? Because Rish Lakish holds that if any of the other brothers married the sister-in-law that had Chalitza, they're chayiv chorus. When you chayiv chorus, the marriage doesn't work. So if the marriage doesn't work, the Tzara is scot-free because she wasn't even related. That's the way Rav Ashi learns the stira. Ravina Savar law, Reb Yochanan, Ravina holds like Reb Yochanan, Mataratz libid Rabanan. He goes the opposite. He goes like Reb Yochanan, who holds that marrying a sister-in-law who had chalitza is only allowed, not chorus. But he goes with the Rabanan, who says that a brother born after the other brother dies, so if he's born before the other brother does the yibum, then he's considered like he was in the world. So somebody does chalitza on his yivimtai, and he goes back and he's makadash or tzricha chalitza min ha'achin. She needs chalitza from the brothers, man achin. So which brothers? Achin hanayladim, the brothers that were already born. Kiman, who is that like? Reb Yochanan, like Reb Yochanan. So Amar Echem and Yiloidim v'Kitsha, if one of the ones that was going to be born was Mekadesher, Ein Lo of Klum, she gets nothing. Why? Kiman Rabanan, because it's going like the Rabanan who said that any type of brother that's born after his brother that died. So then there's their potter from the whole their potter, and they're not allowed. It's a chiyuv chorus, and they were never in the yid. Okay.
I thought we said if they were born after they got married.
That's the Machlokes. So Ravina goes with one, and Rav Ashi goes with the. That is it's very hard to understand this in learning it in 45 minutes. I'm trying my best. If I'm doing something wrong, I ask Mechila, but it's extremely difficult.
So this yibum is years after he died, then.
I don't know. It has to be years, but yeah. Oh, you mean because he's got to be a gadol? Yeah. He's got to be a gadol. It's got to be many years later. Yeah. Okay. End of that case. Now we have a different case. Itmar, so we learned. So somebody he does regular yibum, right? And then his brother goes and he sleeps with the Tzara. And again, remember we said that there's two wives. Once one wife gets chalitza, the other wife is your standard brother's wife, and anybody who's together with her is a chiyuv kares. So here, what happened? That's exactly what happened. So the brother did yibum properly, everything's good, he's a tzaddik, but his other brother went and was miyavim, let's call it yibum, to the other wife. So what's the machlokes? So Ravina is the machlokes of Ravina. Chadom of the kares. One says he gets kares, like the standard sleeping with his sister-in-law. One says it's a mitzvah asay, meaning he's mavatal a mitzvah asay, right? But that's it. Mandar bekares karish lakish. So the one that says that's kares holds like rish lakish, right? Who says that the brothers assur always maintains the kares. Mandar b'asay, and the one that says that it's just a mitzvah asay that he's mavatal. That's like Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that all the brothers get downgraded from a kares to a lag. Fine. So Rabbi Yudah Marav, Tzara sotah, no new case. Tzara sotah assur. This we had in the Mishnah, right? So now what's a Tzara sotah? The guy has two wives. One wife is mezana. So now she is chayiv, karet, whatever she's chayiv, right? And then the husband dies. So she was assur to her husband because she was mezana, right? So she's not allowed to be with the husband. But not a sotah. No, this is a vada. Here we're talking about a tzara sotah. She was mezana, right? Then he died. He probably died from agmas nefesh, that his wife was mezana, right? But he died. Again, it's the why.
What's the Russian sotah? Sotah means we're checking it out, right?
What? Yes, but
so what's the Russian sotah?
Enochanami. So we're going to see later that sotah. The next case, sotah is going to be the safek.
I mean, it's not a sotah, it's outright mezana.
Correct.
So sotah has nothing to do with it.
No, meaning sotah, we use sotah normally as we're doubtful whether they did it. But Lamaisa, she's called.
Is it a safek?
Right. But it is a sotah because we consider her like she's guilty because she was together with the guy. I mean, whatever, she went pastira with the guy.
He brings here that a sotah can be confirmed or not confirmed. The lashon of a sotah, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. So the article says that?
Yeah, he says in the Torah, and there are certain places where it refers to the sotah. Sometimes it's committed, definite, and sometimes not.
Okay, thank you. So that's what it is. So here it means a vada. She was vada mezana. So now the husband probably died from agmas nefesh, that his wife was mezana, right? So now, what's with the tzara? So the tzara is also, there's no yibum, right? So there's no yibum on the tzara. Why? Because tuma ksiba karayis. It says tuma by someone who's mezana, and since this says tuma, that's like considered like arayis. So it's considered like the sister-in-law, just like the wife who was mezana is assur to the husband. She's also assur to her brothers-in-law, and Mamela, her co-wife, also is out. So Masar Rav Chisda, Rav Shimon Aimer, Piyasa Chalitzasa Me'achiv Sharishon Peteres Sarasa. So Rav Chisda asked the kasha because Rav Shimon says that Bia or Chalitza from the first brother, Peteres Sarasa, is going to pater the Tzara, right? So this is a complicated case. And so the truth is not so complicated. The Gemara doesn't even mention what it is, but Rashi says it's a Gemara way later on in the Masechta. A husband goes overseas. Come back, aid him, and say the husband died. Okay, so the woman goes and gets remarried. All of a sudden, comes back the husband. So now she's married to two people. So the halacha is that she's considered like an oinus because she was an oinus. So therefore, be'etzem, she goes back. Her marriage to the second husband was nothing because it was an oinus and it was not allowed. It was an assur kares. Right? Meaning a man comes to a married woman and says, it's meaningless. Right? Because she's an ashes ish. It's a meaningless statement. Right? So here, what happened is she got married by mistake, but now she didn't do anything wrong because they testified that the husband died. But the bottom line is now the husband came back. So who's she married to? So she's married to the first husband, right? But the bottom line is the Rabanan said she cannot go back to the first husband. Right? The Rabanan said she can't go back to the first husband,
Why not?
right?
Why not?
Because it's what?
Otherwise, you're not going to do your due diligence.
Correct. They were afraid that women are just going to get remarried. They wanted to put it onto them that, oh, if you mess this up, then you're not only you're not going to be married to your first husband, you're not going to be married to your second husband either. You're not going to be married to either husband.
Bezdin was mad to her.
So what? So they made a takana.
What did she do? The Bezdin said you could go and get remarried.
Yeah, and a chanami, but it wasn't Bezdin. It's based on the Aiden. It's based on the Aiden.
But she didn't decide that. The Bezdin decided that two Aiden.
You're right. But
You
that
know
was
what? She's not doing anything.
Okay, we'll discuss it in 70 days, 75 days.
well,
So in
when we
that
get to
case,
that case. Good idea.
So in
Tom.
that case, the
Let's finish the daf. Let's just finish the daf and then we can choose after Shabbos.
Very good. What are you saying, Yankee?
then the Adam should be puzzled.
That's true. The Edom are, that's a good point, right? Those Edom ain't getting the Tzaddik of the Year award, that's for sure, right?
Yeah, but nobody really cares about the Adam. We only care about her.
That's true, but the Maisa, the
That's the
Edom
saying.
could have also made a mistake. That's the truth. They could have made a mistake. Could be
And
they
a
saw
kid
it.
from the second marriage is a mamzer?
No, because it was a einus. It's considered a einus. I think it's not a mamzer. But you're right. It's the case later on. Let's just finish the case. So anyways, so Reb Shimon says, if he does yibum, right, or chalitza from the achiv of the first one, paiteres tzarasa, right? So you see that the tzara of a sotah, because this lady was a sotah. At the end of the day, she was mezana. This lady, even though she knew she was doing it on purpose, whatever she was doing it beheter. But the bottom line is, it was. So you see that tzara is potter. So I'm telling you, a lady that for sure was mezana. Batam released sotah the Rabanan. You answer me back a sotah the Rabanan. She was just only a sotah mid the Rabanan because she really got married beheter. So when I says the Kari la my Kari, the Kari la my Kari, so Taka, what was he thinking? How can you compare a sotah who was really mezana with a lady who got remarried based on testimony that her husband died? Right? How can you compare the two? So Kasava called the Tikkun Rabbanan, came to Dioyraysa. No, we're saying it's a takana de Rabbanan that we don't let her go back to her original husband. So they did it exactly like a Dioyraysa. Someone want to say something? Okay, so then the Gemara asks a similar question. Let's say she wasn't vaday mezana. She was a classic sotah. She went into a room alone with this fellow, right? And then she stayed there to date Tumah, enough time for them to be together. Assura lebeisa, she's assur to go to her husband, back to her husband, until she goes to the base of Mikdash and drinks the sotah water. Assura lecha b'truma, and if her husband's a kayin, she's not allowed to eat truma anymore. Mace, and if the husband dies, chayletzes, on Tom Beis now, chayletzes v'lay mesiyavemis. She gets chalitza and then she's not mesiyavemis. So you see that a safek sotah, the Tzara, as at least it needs chalitza. So why does it need chalitza? It should be totally potter. So that's sotah safek. I'm telling you sotah vada, you're telling me sotah safek. And what's the difference between a sotah vada and a sotah safek? Tuma, because
What we do now? We haven't had the base of English for 2,000 years. What happens to the lady goes into a closet with somebody? What do we do?
Oh, so
The husband said, "Don't go into the closet with this."
Yeah,
What
so
do we
then
do?
if the husband wants, it's a grounds for divorce, 100%. He doesn't have to get divorced, but it is grounds for divorce, yeah. And without a ksuba, meaning he could divorce her and she does not get her ksuba money, yeah. Anyway, so it says ksuba tuma, sotah safek nami tuma ksuba. Again, we said the whole reason why it patters the tzara is because it says the word tuma. Sotah also says tuma. The Tani Rabbi Yosef ben Kiva Aimer, Meshum Rabbi Elazar, a machzir grusha in an assur. Now we're on to a different case. Somebody who's machzir is grusha. A man divorces a woman. That woman goes and gets married to somebody else. She's not allowed to ever marry her original husband again. So let's say he does. She gets married, and then he takes her back. Obviously after she gets divorced. So if it was from marriage, assura, then it's assur to him. Mina'erisin muteris. But if it's ma'erisin, she is mutter to marry the first husband. Why? Only once she becomes tameh. which means from marriage. Assura, which is the way we pass them, whether they're kedushin or nesuin, she's also to go back to her husband. Elamani mekayim achari hutama. So what's the word hutama coming? The rabbi sotah shenistera. It's coming to the sotah that was stira. So whatever it is, you see that the word tuma can be referring to a sotah, also a sotah who's a safek. So that should also part to the Tzara. So the Gemara answers, my nistera nivala. No, when it says nistera in this Gemara, it means that they actually had relations. But my karila nistera. Why are you calling relations nistera? Nistera means that they just went into a room together. You don't know for sure if they had relations. No, lishna ma'alyan nakat. We didn't want to say such a not nice lashon. Instead of saying that they had relations, we're saying that they just were in a room together. So Gemara says, Nivala Tuma Behedjik Siba. You're saying Nivala, if they were actually slept together, that it says Beferish. Benistra Vehinitma. So the Gemara says, Lamekam Allah Belav. Now it's also to put another lav on it. So that's it's in Dioyraysa keeper. What does he hold? Lav beside the Leslie. He holds there's no lav by a sotah. But filu zana, even if she's mamish mezana, it's a big chiddush. Dioyraysa keeper holds that even if the lady is mezana, if the husband takes her back, it's not considered. He doesn't even hold it's a lav. It's assur, but it's not a lav. My time havaya ve'ishas ksiva. It has to be. It's only if she actually gets married to somebody else, then it's assur with a lav to take her back. But if she's stam mezana with somebody else, then it's not a lav to take her back. I know we went very fast, so we'll just have to chazir this last thing tomorrow night. But I figure about 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock tomorrow night, Bez Hashem? 9 o'clock? Okay.
Shkayach.
Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a chance, everybody.
Good Shabbos. Shabbos.